Imagine a place where three separate worlds collide on a single strip of Earth. It begins in the realm of eternal ice, where the air is thin and the silence is absolute. High above the clouds, the snow-capped peaks of the Andes Mountains stand as ancient sentinels, guarding secrets frozen in time. But descend just a few miles, and the ice melts into a suffocating embrace of green. Here, in the heart of the Amazon rainforest, life explodes in a chaotic symphony of color and sound, fueled by the relentless rhythm of the rain. And then, as if by magic, the jungle vanishes. The world turns to dust and fire. On the coast, the red sands of the Paracas desert crash violently into the cold, churning waters of the Pacific Ocean. Ice, jungle, desert. This is a land of impossible contrasts, a place where nature tests the limits of survival instinct, forcing life to adapt in ways that defy imagination. From the freezing heights to the steaming lowlands, this is a journey through one of the most spectacular biodiversity ecosystems on our planet. Welcome to Wild Peru. To understand the soul of wild Peru, we must first travel back in time. 65 million years ago, this land did not exist as we know it today. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, a cataclysmic event was unfolding. The massive Nazca Plate began to slide relentlessly beneath the South American continent. It was a collision of titanic proportions, a slow-motion crash that buckled the Earth's crust, folding stone upon stone, driving the land upward in violent, shuddering heaves. From this geological violence, the Andes Mountains were born. They rose to become the spine of South America, a colossal wall of rock stretching thousands of miles. But here in Peru, this wall reaches its most dramatic complexity. The mountains did not just rise, they divided the world. They created an insurmountable barrier that dictates the destiny of everything living in its shadow. To the west, they block the rain, creating the parched coastal deserts. To the east, they trap the moisture of the Atlantic, birthing the lush Amazon. And in the center, they forged a high-altitude realm of thin air and blinding light. Standing at the heart of this frozen kingdom is Mount Huascarán. At 22,205 feet, 6,768 meters, it is the highest point in Peru, a titan that pierces the very fabric of the sky. It is known as the roof of Peru, a place where the atmosphere is so thin that every breath becomes a conscious effort, a precious resource to be fought for. The summit of Huascarán is crowned with eternal ice, a paradox in the tropics. These are the tropical glaciers, shimmering in silver and blue under a sun that burns with unfiltered intensity. The light here does not just illuminate, it dominates. It reflects off the snow with a brilliance that can blind the unwary. In the silence of these heights, the only sound is the cracking of the ice and the hollow roar of the wind sweeping through the granite passes. This is Huascarán National Park, a UNESCO World Heritage Site that protects not just the peaks, but the life-giving water they hold. As the sun climbs, the ice weeps. Meltwater trickles down from the glaciers, gathering into turquoise lakes that sit like jewels in the barren rock. These streams are the veins of the country, carrying the cold, mineral-rich blood of the mountains down to the thirsty valleys below. But this environment is hostile. The temperatures fluctuate wildly, swinging from scorching heat during the day to bone-crushing freezing at night. It is a land of extremes, where the survival instinct is tested not by predators, but by the elements themselves. There are no trees here to break the wind. The landscape is stripped bare, a raw display of geology where rock, ice, and sky engage in an eternal standoff. Yet even in this desolation, there is a terrible beauty. The jagged peaks of the Andes Mountains look like the teeth of the earth, biting into the heavens. They stand as a testament to the planet's power, a reminder that before life could flourish in the forests below, the earth first had to build a fortress in the clouds. This is the stage upon which our story unfolds, a stage built by fire and ice, waiting for the first actors to make their entrance. Among these jagged cliffs, where the wind howls with a ferocity that strips the land bare, trees cannot grow. The air is too thin, the nights too cold. It seems a place forbidden to life. Yet, if you look up, you will see a shadow moving across the face of the sun. This is the domain of the Andean condor. With a wingspan stretching nearly 10 feet, 3 meters, it is one of the largest flying birds on Earth. In the folklore of wild Peru, the condor is more than just an animal. It is a legend. The ancient Incas believed this bird was the messenger of the sun god, the sacred carrier of spirits from the mortal world to the heavens. Watching one soar, it is easy to see why. The condor is a master of the high-altitude physics. At 15,000 feet, the air density is low, making powered flight exhausting. So the condor rarely flaps its wings. Instead, it waits. It waits for the morning sun to heat the valley floor, creating invisible columns of rising warm air called thermals. When the air begins to rise, the condor steps off the ledge and rides the elevator of wind. It can glide for hours, covering hundreds of miles over the Andes Mountains without a single beat of its wings. It is the ultimate efficiency of nature, a creature that has turned the harsh gales of the mountains into its greatest ally. While the condor patrols the heavens, life on the ground plays a different game of survival. Down in the rocky crevices, sheltered from the biting wind, a small, curious creature emerges. Meet the vizcacha. At first glance, it looks like a comic mishmash of animals. The long ears of a rabbit, the bushy tail of a squirrel, and the face of a wise old man. But make no mistake, the vizcacha is perfectly designed for this unforgiving terrain. At these altitudes, conserving heat is a matter of life and death. The vizcacha's thick, soft fur acts as a high-performance insulator against the freezing temperatures. Their daily routine is dictated by the sun. As the first rays hit the slopes, they emerge to sunbathe, sitting perfectly still on the rocks, soaking up every calorie of warmth. They look meditative, almost statue-like, blending seamlessly with the gray granite. But this relaxation is deceptive. In a world with little cover, the survival instinct must be sharp. Their large ears are constantly twitching, listening for the faintest sound of danger, perhaps the silent shadow of a fox, or the rush of wind from wings above. Here, in the thin air of the high Andes, size dictates strategy. For the massive condor, survival means mastering the sky to cover vast distances in search of food. For the tiny vizcacha, it means hugging the warmth of the rocks and staying invisible. Both are children of the mountains, enduring the extremes of the roof of the world. But as we leave the peaks and descend towards the grassy plateaus, the landscape softens and the cast of characters changes. We are entering the Altiplano, where beauty and brutality walk hand in hand. Leaving the jagged peaks behind, the landscape begins to unfurl into the vast, sweeping grasslands of the Altiplano. At 13,000 feet, the air is still thin, but life here is more abundant. This is the stage for a timeless drama played out between the elegant and the deadly. Roaming these high plains are the Vicuñas. If the Condor is the spirit of the sky, the Vicuña is the soul of the earth. They are the wild ancestors of the alpaca, creatures of exquisite grace. With their slender necks, large dark eyes, and golden fleece, they move across the scrubland like dancers. Their wool is legendary, so fine and warm that the ancient Incas considered it a sacred gift from the sun, forbidding anyone but royalty to wear it. But beauty in wild Peru often comes with a price. The Vicuñas are constantly on edge. They graze in small family groups, but there is no relaxation here. Every few seconds, a head shoots up. Ears swivel like radar dishes. They scan the horizon, not for the view, but for a shadow that moves against the wind. They know they are being watched. Hidden amongst the gray boulders, blending perfectly with the dry earth, is the Andes' apex predator, the Puma. This is not the roaring lion of the African savanna. The Puma is the ghost of the Andes. It is silent, solitary, and terrifyingly patient. Its tawny coat is a masterpiece of camouflage, rendering it nearly invisible against the rocky backdrop. For the Puma, the Andes Mountains are not an obstacle. They are a hunting ground. The cat waits for the golden hour, that fleeting moment when the sun dips below the peaks, painting the plains in long, confusing shadows. The temperature begins to plummet, and the wind picks up, masking the sound of paws on gravel. The Puma spots a straggler, a young Vicuña that has wandered just a few feet too far from the herd. The predator's body lowers, pressing flat against the earth. Every muscle is coiled like a steel spring. It does not run, yet it flows over the rocks, closing the distance inch by agonizing inch. The survival instinct of the prey is triggered. The Vicuña freezes. It senses something, a shift in the air, a scent carried on the breeze. Suddenly, the silence shatters. The Puma explodes from cover. It covers 20 feet in a single bound, a blur of muscle and claws. The Vicuña bolts, its hooves kicking up dust as it sprints for the safety of the herd. The chase is a chaotic scramble over uneven terrain, a test of pure speed versus explosive power. But on this day, the ambush is perfect. The Puma intercepts its target with a precision honed by millions of years of evolution. A single crushing bite to the neck ends the struggle instantly. There is no cruelty here, only efficiency. Silence returns to the Altiplano almost as quickly as it was broken. The Puma drags its prize into the shelter of the rocks. In this harsh environment, nothing is wasted. A single kill must sustain it for days. As the stars ignite over the freezing plateau, the ghost of the Andes feeds, securing its place at the top of this fragile food chain. It is a brutal reality, but a necessary one to maintain the balance of this biodiversity ecosystem. High above, the mountains stand witness, indifferent to the life and death struggles playing out on their slopes. But the journey of the water that flows from these peaks is far from over. It is about to plunge down the eastern slopes into a world where the air grows heavy and the green darkness awaits. Leaving the stark, sun-bleached plains of the Altiplano behind, gravity pulls us eastward. The journey down the slopes of the Andes is a descent into a different dimension. The air, once thin and dry, begins to thicken. It grows heavy with moisture. We are entering one of the most mysterious and enchanting environments on Earth, the cloud forest of Manu. Here, at altitudes ranging between 3,000 and 10,000 feet, the hot, humid air rising from the distant Amazon rainforest collides with the freezing cold rock of the Andes Mountains. The result is a perpetual collision of elements. The moisture condenses instantly, trapping the forest in a never-ending embrace of fog and mist. This is a world where the sky does not just hang above, it touches the earth. Manu National Park is the crown jewel of wild Peru, a place where the distinction between land and air blurs. In this twilight zone, direct sunlight is a rare visitor. Instead, a diffuse, ghostly glow filters through the canopy, illuminating a landscape that looks like it belongs in a fairy tale. Every inch of available surface is colonized by life. The trees here are ancient and gnarled, their branches twisted into impossible shapes. But you can barely see the bark. Every limb, every trunk is swaddled in thick layers of moss, lichens, and bromeliads. These plants are epiphytes, air plants that drink the moisture directly from the fog. They act like a colossal emerald sponge, soaking up millions of gallons of water, holding it and releasing it slowly. The forest literally drips. It is a constant rhythmic sound. Drip, drip, drip. The heartbeat of the cloud forest. Navigating this vertical labyrinth are the woolly monkeys. They are the acrobats of the mist. With their thick, dense fur, dark gray or brown, they are perfectly adapted to this cool, damp climate. Unlike the monkeys of the hot lowlands, who have sleek coats, the woolly monkey needs insulation against the mountain chill that permeates the cloud forest. They look like plush toys come to life, with round heads and expressive, almost human-like faces. A troop moves through the canopy with a fluid grace that defies gravity. They use their prehensile tails like a fifth limb, wrapping them securely around wet, slippery branches as they swing across the abyss. This tail is a marvel of biological engineering, strong enough to support their entire body weight, yet sensitive enough to pick up a small fruit. Socially, they are complex and affectionate. In the dim light of the understory, you can see them grooming each other, a vital ritual that cements family bonds. Mothers clutch their infants close to their chests, shielding them from the omnipresent dampness. They communicate with a series of soft trills and high-pitched squeaks, sounds that don't travel far, but cut clearly through the muffling fog. But life here is not just about staying warm. It is about finding food in a vertical world. The cloud forest is rich in wild fruits and tender leaves, but finding them requires an encyclopedic knowledge of the forest. The troop is led by experienced elders who know exactly which trees are fruiting in which season. They are the gardeners of the forest, swallowing seeds and dispersing them miles away as they travel, ensuring the continued regeneration of this biodiversity ecosystem. The cloud forest is a transitional world, a bridge between the sterile ice above and the steaming jungle below. It is a filter, a sponge, and a nursery. But it is also a place of secrets. As the mist swirls and parts, it reveals flashes of color that seem too vibrant to be real. Hidden in these dripping shadows are creatures even more bizarre and beautiful than the monkeys. Creatures that have turned this gloomy world into a stage for the most spectacular performances in wild Peru. In the monochrome world of the cloud forest, where everything is painted in shades of mossy green and misty gray, color is a shock to the system. It appears suddenly, like a flame ignited in the fog. Deep in a secluded ravine, a strange guttural noise breaks the silence. It sounds like a pig grunting or a machine grinding gears. But the source is not a beast of burden. It is the national bird of Peru, the Andean cock of the rock. This bird defies logic. The male is a blinding explosion of neon orange or blood red, so vivid it hurts the eyes. His head is crowned with a bizarre fan-like crest that completely obscures his beak, making him look less like a bird and more like an exotic flower come to life. In the dim light of the understory, he is a living beacon. But he is not alone. This is a leka, bachelor pad of the jungle. Every morning, dozens of males gather in this designated arena to perform the most important audition of their lives. The stakes are absolute pass on your genes or fade into oblivion. When a female arrives, drab, brown, and blending perfectly with the shadows, the chaos begins. The males descend into a frenzy. They bob their heads, snap their wings, and hop from branch to branch with manic energy. They unleash a cacophony of squawks and grunts, turning the peaceful forest into a riotous nightclub. It is a display of pure, unadulterated vanity. The female watches from the sidelines, the ultimate judge. She is looking for the brightest feathers, the most energetic dance, the strongest survival instinct displayed through sheer stamina. She chooses the best performer, mates quickly, and leaves him to continue his dance, raising the chicks entirely on her own. While the cock of the rock is the loud, brash rock star of the forest, another resident prefers a more subtle, regal approach. High in the canopy, silent and still, sits the golden-headed Quetzal. If the cock of the rock is fire, the Quetzal is a gemstone. Its feathers shimmer with an iridescent emerald green that shifts to gold depending on the angle of the light. Its belly is a deep, rich crimson. It sits motionless for hours, a living jewel amidst the dripping vermilion. The Quetzal does not need to scream to be seen. Its beauty is its presence. It waits patiently for insects or small fruits, moving only with a sudden, silent flame. Seeing one is considered a moment of grace, a fleeting glimpse of the forest's hidden magic. These birds are the splash of paint on the canvas of wild Peru. In a place dominated by rain and shadow, they are a reminder that evolution does not just favor the strong or the hidden. Sometimes it favors the beautiful. They are the heartbeat of this biodiversity ecosystem, bringing vibrancy to the gloom. But as we descend further, the air grows warmer, the mist lifts, and the ground begins to teem with life on a much smaller scale. We are about to enter a world where monsters come in miniature packages. As we descend from the clouds, the temperature rises. The cool mist evaporates, replaced by the humid, suffocating heat of the true Amazon rainforest. Here, on the forest floor, a different kind of drama unfolds. It is a universe of giants in miniature, a biodiversity ecosystem so dense that every leaf, every puddle, and every rotting log is a battlefield. In this perpetual twilight, visibility is poor. To survive, you must either disappear or strike faster than the eye can blink. Perched on a wet leaf, translucent and fragile, sits the glass frog. It is a ghost of the rainforest. Its skin is not just green on its underside, it is completely see-through. If you look closely, you can witness the miracle of life itself. The tiny rhythmic beating of its red heart, the coiling of its intestines, the flow of blood through its veins. It is biology laid bare. These frogs are inextricably linked to the rain. They don't just need water, they are defined by it. They lay their eggs on leaves hanging over streams. When the tadpoles hatch, they drop straight into the currents below. It is a perilous start to life, but in wild Peru, efficiency is the only law. But where there is life, there is death, waiting in the shadows. Coiled silently on a nearby branch is a pit viper. Its scales are a mosaic of emerald and lime, a camouflage so perfect it becomes one with the foliage. It does not chase, it waits. It possesses heat-sensing pits on its face, thermal cameras that can detect the body heat of a passing frog or mouse in total darkness. It is a loaded spring, a trap set by nature, ready to snap shut in a fraction of a second. Down in the leaf litter, a heavier predator stalks, the Peruvian tarantula. With a leg span the size of a dinner plate and a body covered in sensitive hairs, it is a tank of the undergrowth. It doesn't build a web to catch flies. It is an ambush predator. It feels the vibrations of footsteps, the erratic hop of a cricket, the scuttle of a beetle. When it strikes, it is a blur of fangs and fury. Yet even this 8-legged monster is a devoted mother, guarding her burrow fiercely against intruders. Dominating the lower branches is a creature that seems to have stepped out of a time machine. The common basilisk, often called the Jesus lizard for its ability to sprint across water, though here it prefers to rule the trees. With a high crest running down its back and cold reptilian eyes, it looks like a miniature dinosaur, a relic from the Jurassic era that refused to go extinct. It stands motionless, head cocked, surveying its domain with the arrogance of a king. Its scales shimmer like burnished armor in the dappled sunlight. When it moves, it is with explosive speed. It is the apex of agility in this tangled world. The basilisk is a living testament to the ancient history of the Amazon rainforest. A reminder that long before humans walked these woods, dragons, however small, ruled the trees. This micro-world is the foundation of the jungle. It is chaotic, ruthless, and endlessly fascinating. But the stability of this floor is about to be shattered. The seasons are changing. The distant rumble of thunder signals the arrival of a force that will transform the entire landscape. By February, the skies over the Amazon rainforest turn a bruised purple. The air grows heavy, charged with static and anticipation. Then, the heavens open. This is not a gentle shower. It is a bombardment. Rain falls in sheets, hammering the canopy with a roar that drowns out the calls of the howler monkeys. For weeks, the deluge is relentless. But the water attacking the forest comes from two fronts. While the rain pours from above, a silent giant is waking up in the west. High in the Andes Mountains, the summer sun melts the glacial ice. Millions of gallons of freezing meltwater rush down the slopes, gathering sediment, turning chocolate brown as they carry the earth of the mountains into the valleys. These two massive forces, the tropical rain and the mountain runoff, converge on the Amazon basin. The result is a hydrological cataclysm. The rivers begin to swell. The Ucayali, the Marañón, the Madre de Dios, they burst their banks. The water level doesn't just rise, it skyrockets, climbing up to 30 feet, 10 meters vertically. It swallows the riverbanks, then the bushes, and finally the lower branches of the trees. Within weeks, the landscape of wild Peru is unrecognizable. The solid ground we walked on just a month ago is now lost under a vast, murky ocean. The forest floor has become a riverbed. Hiking trails are now waterways. This is the Varzea flooded forest. It is a magical, surreal transformation. The sun reflects off the still, dark water, creating a mirror world where the trees seem to grow both upwards into the sky and downwards into the depths. The forest has not died, it has adapted. The giant kapok and ceiba trees stand like pillars of a submerged cathedral, their roots breathing underwater, holding firm against the silent current. For the animals of the Amazon, the rules of the game have changed overnight. Walking is no longer an option. The land dwellers are forced to retreat, climbing higher into the canopy to escape the rising tide. The jaguars, the tapirs, the deer, all are pushed into smaller, crowded islands of dry land. But for others, this flood is a liberation. The aquatic world expands its territory. Fish leave the main river channels and swim amongst the tree trunks, exploring feeding grounds that were dry land only days before. They glide over the forest floor, plucking fruits that fall from the branches above. This pulse of water is the heartbeat of the continent. It brings nutrients, spreads seeds, and reshapes the geography of the jungle. But as the water rises, it also brings monsters from the deep into the heart of the forest. The flooded corridors become hunting grounds for ancient predators who have waited all year for this moment to expand their empire. As the waters of the Amazon rainforest rise, they open a gateway for the giants. The boundaries between the deep river channels and the forest floor dissolve, allowing the titans of the deep to glide silently between the tree trunks. The first to arrive is a creature of nightmare and legend, the black caiman. This is the largest predator in the Amazon basin, a prehistoric reptile that can grow up to 16 feet, 5 meters in length. Its skin is dark, almost black, designed to vanish into the tannin-stained waters of the flooded forest. It moves with a terrifying stillness, barely creating a ripple. Only its eyes and nostrils break the surface, watching, smelling, calculating. In the dry season, they are confined to the shrinking rivers, fighting for space. But now, with the forest transformed into a vast inland sea, the black caiman is the king of an expanded empire. It drifts through the submerged vegetation, a silent submarine hunting for fish, otters, or unwary capybaras swimming between islands of dry land. Its survival instinct is ruthless. Anything that moves is potential prey. But the caiman is not the only giant patrolling these murky depths. Cruising alongside it is a living fossil, a fish that has remained virtually unchanged for millions of years, the Arapaima. Locals call it the paiche. It is a river monster in the truest sense, massive, armored, and powerful. Growing up to 10 feet long and weighing over 400 pounds, the Arapaima is one of the largest freshwater fish on the planet. Its body is covered in scales as tough as armor plating, shielding it from piranha bites and the debris of the flood. What makes the Arapaima truly unique in this biodiversity ecosystem is its need to breathe air. Every 15 to 20 minutes, a massive head breaks the surface. It gasps a lungful of air with a loud, distinct sound, a primitive gulp that echoes through the quiet forest before diving back into the gloom. It does not hunt with the slashing teeth of a shark or the death roll of a crocodile. The Arapaima possesses a weapon that is far more sophisticated, the vacuum strike. It stalks its prey, usually smaller fish, with the patience of a sniper. It drifts closer, motionless, its eyes locking onto the target. Then, in a split second, it opens its cavernous mouth. The sudden expansion creates a powerful vacuum, a literal implosion of water. The prey isn't bitten, it is inhaled. The strike is so fast, so violent, that it creates a sonic thud that can be felt through the water. In this submerged world, Death comes not with a roar, but with a snap. For the smaller creatures of the Amazon, the flooded forest is a terrifying gauntlet. The water provides no safety, only shadows where the Arapaima and the black Caiman wait. These two titans, one a reptile, the other a fish, rule the dark waters, reminding us that in wild Peru, even the trees are not safe when the river rises. But while the giants rule the water, high above, other creatures are fighting a different battle against the flood. Battle of patience and slow motion endurance. High above the floodwaters, where the air is humid and still, time seems to stretch and warp. In this vertical world, survival is not always about being the fastest. Sometimes it is about being the most patient. Hanging upside down from a cecropia branch is the three-toed sloth. He is the embodiment of the slow movement. Every motion is deliberate, calculated, and agonizingly sluggish. He lifts a claw, pauses, and seemingly forgets what he was doing before finally grasping the next branch. To the human eye, it looks like laziness. In the brutal logic of the Amazon rainforest, it is metabolic genius. The sloth survives on a diet of toxic, tough leaves that offer almost no energy. To cope, he has turned his body into a machine of extreme efficiency. His digestion is so slow that a single meal can take a month to process. He moves so little that he burns almost no calories. He effectively drops out of the rat race of the jungle. He is so still that the forest has begun to claim him. Moss and algae grow in his coarse fur, turning him green. He becomes a walking, or rather hanging, biodiversity ecosystem of his own, hosting moths and beetles in his coat. This green cloak serves as the perfect camouflage. To a hungry harpy eagle soaring above, or a jaguar prowling below, the sloth is indistinguishable from a bundle of dead leaves. In wild Peru, invisibility is the ultimate shield. But the sloth is not the only leaf eater in the canopy. Shattering the sloth's silence is a sound that chills the blood. A guttural, roaring howl erupts, echoing for 3 miles across the treetops. It sounds like a jaguar in pain or a demon unleashed. But the source is the red howler monkey. Despite their terrifying vocals, these monkeys are surprisingly sedentary. Like the sloth, they rely heavily on leaves, a diet that requires hours of fermentation in their large stomachs. They are the cows of the canopy. They spend up to 80 of their day just sitting, digesting, and looking grumpy. The howl is not a hunting cry. It is a stay away sign. By roaring, rival troops can assess each other's strength and location without ever having to fight physically. It is a battle of sound, preserving precious energy that would be wasted in a brawl. Here, in the upper stories of the jungle, the survival instinct has taken a curious turn. While the world below fights tooth and nail, the sloth and the howler monkey prove that in the grand design of nature, there is power in stillness. They wait out the heat, they wait out the predators, and they wait out the flood. But the waters cannot stay high forever. As the months pass, the great hydrological cycle turns once more. The sun grows fiercer. The river levels begin to drop. The stage is being reset for a dramatic transformation. By May, the skies over the Amazon rainforest undergo a dramatic transformation. The heavy leaden clouds that have smothered the jungle for months begin to break apart. For the first time in half a year, the sun reclaims its throne. Shafts of golden light pierce through the canopy, illuminating the steam rising from the drying earth. The great flood is over. the river is retreating. As the water levels drop, the Amazon reveals its scars and its treasures. Massive sandbars and mud banks known as playas emerge from the receding currents. These are not barren wastelands. They are rich with the silt and nutrients brought down from the Andes Mountains. The forest floor, once a murky riverbed, begins to dry out, leaving behind a layer of fertile mud that smells of decay and rebirth. With the return of the sun, the jungle explodes with color. The silence of the flood is replaced by a riotous festival of sound. High on the exposed riverbanks, a spectacular phenomenon takes place. One of the most dazzling sights in wild Peru. Thousands of parrots and macaws descend from the canopy. Scarlet macaws, blue and yellow macaws, and red and green macaws swirl in the air like confetti. They scream and squawk, a deafening chorus of vibrant life. They are heading for the Siope of the clay licks. These steep walls of exposed earth are the pharmacy of the jungle. The seeds and unripe fruits that the macaws eat are filled with toxins, nature's defense against being eaten. To neutralize this poison, the birds must eat the clay, which is rich in sodium and minerals. They cling to the vertical cliffs, gnawing at the earth, turning the brown mud into a kaleidoscope of red, blue, green, and gold. It is a social gathering as much as a medical necessity, a moment where the biodiversity ecosystem displays its most vibrant actors on a single stage. But down by the water's edge, the receding river triggers a different kind of biological clock. This is the breeding season. On the newly formed beaches, female black caimans are busy. They scrape together mounds of rotting vegetation and mud to build their nests. The heat of the decomposing plant matter acts as a natural incubator for their eggs. For weeks, the mothers stand guard, hissing at any predator that dares to approach. When the babies finally hatch, their high-pitched chirps signal the mother to gently dig them out and carry them to the water in her massive jaws. In the shrinking pools, the giant Arapaima is also tending to the next generation. But here, the roles are reversed. It is the father who takes charge. As the water recedes, thousands of fry hatch, forming a dark, swirling cloud around the male's head. He is a devoted guardian, herding his vulnerable offspring away from hungry piranhas and kingfishers. The secret to their survival is a milky substance secreted from glands on the father's head, providing nutrients and chemical signals that keep the fry close. The receding water is a double-edged sword. It creates nesting grounds and concentrates food, but it also traps the unwary. As the rivers shrink back into their channels, millions of fish are left stranded in isolated oxbow lakes. The feast is set. And approaching the forest floor with the discipline of a Roman legion is an army that knows no fear. As the floodwaters vanish and the forest floor hardens under the sun, the ground begins to move, not with the rumble of an earthquake, but with the silent, rhythmic march of millions of tiny legs. We are entering the domain of the true rulers of the Amazon rainforest, the ants. First, meet the builders, the civil engineers of the jungle, the leaf-cutter ants. Look closely at the trail winding through the undergrowth. It looks like a miniature green river flowing backwards. Thousands of workers trudge in a single file, each carrying a fragment of leaf held high above their heads like an emerald flag. The piece of leaf is often 3 times the size of the ant and 50 times its weight. Imagine a human carrying a minivan up a tree, and you begin to understand their strength. But here is the twist. They do not eat the leaves. Deep underground, in a ventilation-controlled bunker that can stretch 20 feet deep, a complex civilization is at work. The ants chew the leaves into a pulp to cultivate a specific type of fungus. This fungus is their food, their life source. They are the world's first farmers, practicing agriculture for millions of years before humans even invented the wheel. Their society is a masterpiece of biology. There are soldier ants with massive jaws to defend the columns, medium ants to cut the leaves, and tiny minima ants that hitch a ride on the leaves to fend off parasitic flies. It is a hive mind, a collective intelligence where the individual matters little, but the colony is immortal. They strip the forest, but they also enrich the soil, turning the Amazon rainforest into a churning engine of nutrient recycling. But not all ants are creators. Some are pure destroyers. A different sound ripples through the leaf litter, a frantic rustling. Crickets jump into the water to drown rather than face what is coming. Spiders abandon their webs. Scorpions flee in panic. The army ants are on the move. Unlike the leafcutters, they have no permanent home. They are nomads, a wandering legion of death. They do not build, they raid. A single colony can number over 1 million individuals, forming a living carpet that spreads across the forest floor. They are blind, guided only by scent and touch, but their coordination is terrifying. They move as a fluid mass, flushing out everything in their path. There is no escape. A tarantula, a scorpion, or even a wounded bird, if it cannot move fast enough, it is swarmed. Thousands of jaws tear it apart, piece by piece. They can strip a carcass to the bone in a matter of hours. When they encounter a gap in the terrain, they link their bodies together, forming living bridges of legs and mandibles, so the rest of the army can cross. They are the ultimate expression of the survival instinct, pushed to its aggressive limit. For the indigenous people of wild Peru, the army ants are both a plague and a blessing. When a column marches through a village, the people simply leave. They take their children and pets and wait. When they return, their homes are scrubbed, clean. Every cockroach, spider, and pest has been exterminated by the passing legion. These two empires, the farmers and the warriors, fight a silent war for dominance beneath the trees. They remind us that in wild Peru, size is deceptive. The most complex societies, the most ruthless armies, and the most diligent workers are not the ones with spines, but the ones with exoskeletons. But as the day heats up, the action shifts from the microscopic to the majestic. We head towards the Oxbow Lakes, where the receding waters have trapped the giants in a high-stakes arena. Deep within the Tambopata Reserve, the retreating waters have left behind a series of oxbow, lakes crescent-shaped bodies of water cut off from the main river. These are the Tres Chimbados, or the mirrors of the jungle. The water here is still and glassy, reflecting the towering ceiba trees and the endless blue sky. But this tranquility is a lie. These shrinking pools have concentrated the fish, the caimans, and the turtles into a confined space. It is a buffet for predators, and striding out of the shadows to claim this bounty is the undisputed monarch of wild Peru, the jaguar. He is a creature of breathtaking power. Weighing over 200 pounds, he is the third largest cat in the world. But pound for pound, he is the strongest. His coat is a masterpiece of gold and black rosettes, a pattern that dissolves perfectly into the dappled sunlight of the undergrowth. Unlike his African cousins who hate water, the jaguar is a swimmer. He belongs to the river as much as the forest. He moves along the muddy bank with a silence that is almost supernatural. His eyes, burning with focus, scan the water. He is not looking for a chase. He is looking for an assassination. The jaguar possesses the strongest bite force of all big cats. He does not go for the throat. He bites directly through the skull. He can crush the shell of a river turtle or the armored head of a caiman with a single crunch. But today, the king is not alone, and his authority is about to be challenged. Rippling across the surface of the lake comes a formation of dark heads. They approach with the noise and swagger of a street gang. These are the giant river otters. Locals call them lobos del rio, wolves of the river. Growing up to 6 feet long, they are the largest otters on the planet. But do not let their playful appearance fool you. They are the apex predators of the water, possessing a survival instinct that relies entirely on aggressive teamwork. They spot the jaguar on the bank. In almost any other scenario in nature, prey flees from predators. But the giant otters do not flee. They attack. They raise their bodies out of the water, craning their long necks to get a better look. Then the screaming begins. They unleash a barrage of high-pitched snorts, wails, and screeches. It is a psychological assault. The pack churns the water into a frenzy, splashing violently to confuse and intimidate the cat. The jaguar pauses. He watches them with cold, amber eyes. He knows the math. 1-on-1, an otter is a snack. But against a pack of 10, the odds shift dangerously. The otters are fast, their teeth are sharp, and they attack from all sides. A single infected bite could mean a slow death for a solitary hunter. The tension hangs heavy in the humid air. The jungle holds its breath. The king of the land stares down the wolves of the water. With a low growl of frustration, the jaguar makes a decision. He turns his back. He melts away into the shadows of the forest, choosing prudence over pride. The otters erupt in a chorus of triumphant squeals, patrolling their lake with renewed arrogance. This encounter reveals the true nature of this biodiversity ecosystem. It is a place of checks and balances, where even the mightiest can be humbled by the power of community. The jaguar remains the master of the ambush, but in the open water, the family always wins. As the jaguar retreats into the twilight, we too must leave the green embrace of the Amazon. Our journey takes a final dramatic turn. We are heading west, racing the setting sun towards the edge of the continent, where the jungle gives way to dust and the dust meets the sea. Leaving the humid, suffocating embrace of the Amazon, we cross the Andes one last time. Suddenly, the green vanishes. The world turns into a canvas of burnt orange, rust, and beige. Welcome to Paracas. This is the coastal desert of Peru, one of the driest places on Earth. It looks like the surface of Mars. Rain is a myth here. In some areas, it hasn't rained for decades. The sun beats down on the red dunes with unforgiving intensity, baking the sand until it radiates heat like a furnace. By all logic, this should be a dead zone. But step to the edge of the cliffs, look down, and you will see a miracle. Where the burning sands crash into the Pacific Ocean, the water boils with life. This is the magic of the Humboldt Current. This massive underwater river travels north from Antarctica, hugging the coast of wild Peru. It brings with it icy cold water, rich in nutrients churned up from the ocean floor. When this cold stream hits the tropical sun, it creates an explosion of plankton, which feeds the anchovies, which in turn feed everything else. Standing on the rocky islets, looking completely out of place in this desert landscape, are the Humboldt penguins. Penguins in the tropics? It seems like a mistake of geography, but these birds are perfectly adapted to this specific coastline. They don't need ice, they need the cold current. On land, they are comical characters. They waddle awkwardly over the guano-covered rocks, tripping over their own feet, looking like little men in tuxedos who have lost their way to a formal dinner. They nest in burrows dug into the hard desert soil to escape the scorching midday sun. But the moment they hit the water, the clouds vanish. They become torpedoes. Streamlined and powerful, they fly underwater with a grace that defies physics. Their wings become thin, propelling them into the heart of the anchovy shoals. Their survival instinct is tuned to the rhythm of the current. They know exactly when the tide will bring the feast closer to shore. Competing with them for space on the jagged rocks are the South American sea lions. Massive, noisy, and smelling of brine, they sprawl across the beaches like sunbathers on a crowded holiday. The bulls, weighing up to 800 pounds with thick, lion-like manes, patrol their harems with aggressive barks. They look sluggish, melting into the rocks under the sun. But watch them surf the waves. They play in the crushing surf of the Pacific, riding the breakers with the joy of children. But the true spectacle of Paracas happens in the air. Look up. The sky is darkened by squadrons of Peruvian booties and pelicans. They patrol the coastline in tight formations, scanning the water with piercing eyes. Suddenly, a signal is given. One bird tips its wings and drops. Then another. Then 100. They fold their wings back, transforming into living missiles. They strike the water at 60 miles per hour. Thwack, thwack, thwack. The sound is like gunfire. They plunge deep below the surface, stunning the fish with the sheer impact. As they surface, gullets full of silverfish, the water around them churns. The sea lions are barking, the penguins are diving, and the birds are plunging. It is a chaotic, deafening frenzy of feeding. Here, in this thin strip where the driest desert meets the richest ocean, wild Peru saves its final surprise. It shows us that life does not just need greenery to flourish. It needs balance. The heat of the land and the cold of the sea have locked together to create one of the most productive biodiversity ecosystems on the planet. As the sun begins to set over the Pacific, casting long shadows across the red dunes, the noise of the colony starts to fade. The day is ending, and so is our journey. Our journey through wild Peru comes to a close, but the story of this land continues long after the screen fades to black. We have traveled from the breathless heights of the Andes Mountains, where the ice keeps watch over history, down into the steaming lungs of the Amazon rainforest, where life fights for every inch of life. We have stood on the edge of the parched desert, watching the ocean turn dust into abundance. 3 worlds, 1 heartbeat. What we have witnessed here is more than just a collection of stunning landscapes. It is a lesson in connection. The glacier that melts on the peak becomes the river that feeds the jaguar. The nutrient that washes down from the mountain becomes the clay that heals the macaw. The cold current that chills the penguin feeds the seabird that fertilizes the desert. Nothing here stands alone. In this land of extremes, we have seen the raw power of survival instinct. We have seen that life is stubborn. It clings to freezing rocks. It breathes underwater, and it thrives in the driest sands. But we have also seen that this incredible biodiversity ecosystem is fragile. The glaciers are retreating. The rains are shifting. The delicate balance that has held these three worlds together for millennia is beginning to tremble. Wild Peru is a reminder of what we still have and what we stand to lose. It asks us to look closer, to listen harder, and to respect the ancient rhythms that govern our planet. The world is wide, and its secrets are deep. There are still mountains we haven't climbed, and rivers we haven't followed. If this journey stirred something in you, if you felt the chill of the wind, the humidity of the forest, or the spray of the ocean, then this is not the end. It is an invitation. Share this story. Let the world know that magic still exists. Join us as we continue to explore the wild corners of our Earth, uncovering the stories that need to be told. Because the wild is calling, and all we have to do is listen. Thank you for watching.